It's Hump Day, a very good day for some midweek malarkey.
Well, so far so good, right? I mean, it's camels, it's Hump Day. What day is it? It's Hump Day. Not only is it Hump Day, but it's Valentine's Day, or as some people say, Valentine's Day. So whichever it is for you, happy day of love. It's also National Organ Donor Day. You can write the jokes yourself on that one. You're going to be donating an organ. It's a good day to do it because it is Hump Day and it's Valentine's or Valentine's Day. So this midweek malarkey thing that we're doing is, just kind of hanging out midweek, puns over politics. I kind of like that. No politics, just the fun stuff. The stuff that we don't get to do a lot of times. And so this first one's free. And we'll see about putting behind the paywall. You gotta love capitalism. Right? Right. So we're going to start off with, I hesitate to do this because, love does go bad. Maybe we shouldn't start off with the guy beating his wife to death with a bench. It seems a little harsh. I get it. But sometimes love just has a tendency to go badly. That's what happened with this particular gentleman. He was pissed off. I don't know how you beat somebody to death with a bench. I mean, you got to be a special kind of pissed off to do that. Italian footballer jailed for beating his ex-girlfriend to death with a hammer, a baseball bat, and a bench after she reported him for stalking. See, that's the problem, is you get the crazies out there. We talked about that a little bit. If you watch the Daily Mojo, you know that we have our director of global security on each Wednesday, and we were talking about the love connection that some of these guys are out there talking to some of these younger women who identify as maybe a cat or a dog or a hamster or a gerbil or whatever the hell else people are identifying as these days. And you have to, people like that, they are the date not marry type. I mean, sure, it's fun for a day, a couple of days, a weekend, maybe an extended week, but they're not the type you want to marry because sooner or later, the crazy gets really old. I have no idea what this guy did, but when you start beating people to death with a bench, that is definitely love gone wrong. People love life. For instance, the woman who loved life so much, she decided to come back to life in the hearse on the way to her own cremation. It's a little bizarre. An Indian woman who was thought to be dead woke up again moments before she was about to be cremated. I know, you wonder if these stories are real. But it's in India. It's in Berhampur, India. So it has to be real. Bougie Amma was severely burnt in a fire in her home on February 1st. She was taken to the hospital, burns covering half of her body. She returned home where she remained in a bad state. That's an understatement. A few days later, she didn't open her eyes because the family were unable to get her to another hospital due to poor finances. So her husband believes she died, arranged for her to be taken to the cremation ground in a hearse. He told the Times of India, that bastion of truth and light, that we thought she was dead. We told everybody else in the locality to arrange a hearse van to carry the body to the cremation ground. Where exactly is the cremation ground? It's fabled, but I've just never been there. A woman called Kay saw Amana open her eyes and said, initially we were scared as we had never seen such an incident, although we'd heard some stories, about people coming back to life. So the driver of the hearse was called back to collect her, living and breathing, from the cremation ground, rather. Only half an hour later, she was taken home in the same hearse. Because why? Why screw with a good thing? In a bit, we're going to find out why love is actually a lot like a drug. It was Brian Roxy Music. Love is the drug for me, and scientifically, because today is the day of love, and it's hump day, and it's midweek malarkey, we'll find out about how love and cocaine have some similar things in common with each other. Hopefully not the painkiller, though, that people are being prescribed. You have a weak stomach, you may want to sit this one out. But there is a drug apparently doctors are prescribing. It's called Nolotol. And it numbs everything up, but the problem is it ends up rotting people's flesh and requiring patients to have limbs amputated. Victims shared their experiences with Mail Online, cataloging a horror show of injuries that came as a result of using the pain relief medication. This is one of those like where the side effects, they list off the side effects of a drug, and they sound about 10 times worse than the problem you initially had. Whether it was bleeding out your butt or whatever it was. But Cristina Garcia del Campo, man, she's something. She campaigns against the use of the drug. I would think everybody would campaign against the use of this particular drug because she said she knows of nearly 40 Brits who have died since 2016 due to the medication. If that's what happens to you right there, that is nasty. I don't even know what that is a view of. But let's see here. It's a brand name for a drug. It's called metamizole, which is banned in dozens of countries, including the UK, due to its well-known toxicity and the fact that apparently it'll make stuff on you fall off. Don't forget it is National Organ Donor Day. An Irish woman living in Malaga said she had been given the painkiller by a doctor to help with shoulder pain, but the 69-year-old, coincidence, ended up with a necrotic tissue on her neck and glands and was left with a large scar where the rotten tissue had to be surgically removed. She says, I now look and feel like a wreck, and it'll take me a very long time to recover, but I will never be the same again. We may never pass this way again either. So if you are in the hospital, headed to the hospital, and they want to give you some Nolotol, just say no to Nolotol. Speaking of rotting flesh, we actually don't know whether or not it was rotting flesh on the airplane. And what is going on in the air, in the skies above us? This time it's passengers on a flight from Birmingham to Geneva. They were forced off of the airplane. I mean, in the past month, we've had doors fall off airplanes. We've had fights on airplanes. We've had a dude vomit blood and die on an airplane. And now we have people forced off an airplane and left for hours after the pilot detected a funny smell. It beats me. I don't know what defines a funny smell, but more than 100 people left without food and water, being told to disembark from the plane while it was still on the tarmac on the 7th, again going from Birmingham to Geneva across the pond. Pilot had smelled something chemical, resulting in the flight being delayed, and specialists brought in to investigate. Total of 106 passengers then asked to go back to the terminal and await further instructions on their flight. They were left in limbo. This was on EasyJet. The EasyJet representatives and crew allegedly went home once the flight was grounded, leaving a third-party company, the airport ground handling firm Swissport, to organize all of the schedules of the passengers. This is why I don't care if I ever get on an airplane again. It is like the biggest fustercluck in the skies, no matter where you're going, unless you have a private jet like, Taylor Swift. One person said, I asked if I should get my children some food. The representative said, go out and wait for 20 minutes until there's an update. That sounds like fun. After waiting for an hour and hearing nothing, the flight then disappeared from the departure information screen in the airport. The passenger added, "I only knew that the flight had officially been canceled when I asked another passenger who was leaving the seating area what happened." And they're like, well, got canceled. And she's like, well, what do we do? And he's like, I don't know. But again, this was EasyJet. Just in case you want to avoid the airline where the mystery smell was, it's EasyJet. I don't know if they suck as bad as Spirit or JetBlue, but apparently they stink. And this is another case of if I push that button, we get in. This just happened. I haven't even seen the video yet, but there was a flight from, where was this? It was I don't know where they took off from, but they were going to Kauai. So how can you be pissed off and upset if you're going to Kauai to begin with? Kauai is beautiful, especially this time of year. But apparently people had a out-and-out fist fight on this flight to Kauai. We still don't know what they were fighting over, but they could face fines of up to $37,000. Just as soon as the pre-roll stops here, I think I can show it to you. In 3, 2, and 1.
On a Southwest flight to Kauai yesterday could face fines up to $37,000. As the FAA investigates, video of the fight is spurring debate online. Our Eddie Dowd reports.
We talked to several Hawaii-based flight attendants who say they saw that video of that incident up in the air Monday where fists were thrown. Wow. They say it made them feel uncomfortable due to safety concerns. Now, that incident is also getting attention nationally and by the federal government.
It made them uncomfortable? Think about the guy who landed that
due to
punch.
Safety concerns. Now,
wow. What the hell is wrong with people?
That incident is also getting attention nationally and by the federal government.
Bam.
It's not the first time there's been a physical altercation in the air. The FAA says in the last 10 years, it has initiated more than 1,000 enforcement actions against unruly passengers.
A brawl broke out between passengers before a flight takes off from Japan to the U.S.
Happened again. A fight breaking out between two passengers on a Southwest flight just before takeoff.
That's probably because a C jumped in front of a B. And if you've ever been a B or an A and a C jumps in front of you, that's worth a fight right there, especially if you're going to end up in the middle seat, even if you're on the way to Hawaii.
But some flight attendants tell us they're surprised it happened on a route to Kauai.
You know, that's really sad. I mean, they're coming to Hawaii. Why would they be fighting?
Thank you. There's a smart woman. You're going to freaking Hawaii. Shut up, sit down, and enjoy the flight. When you get there, you can go out on the beach and fight with somebody else. But why do you have to do it in the airplane? Dick in every crowd.
I've been flying 45 years, and no, it was not like this. Probably the worst thing that happened many, many years ago is a passenger maybe taking some peanuts.
Wait, what? Oh, taking. Okay, gotcha. For just a second, didn't have any idea what the hell he was talking
Federal
about.
Department of Transportation posted about the incident on X, formerly known as Twitter, saying, quote, Our department has zero tolerance for violent or unruly...
I'm with Jeffy on this one. Can we stop with the formerly known as Twitter? It's X. You can tweet on X, you can do, but it's stop with the formerly, or just call it Twitter, but for crying out loud, X, formerly known as Twitter. We get it.
Behavior aboard an aircraft. If you act out on the airplane, you can face criminal prosecution and fines of up to $37,000, end quote. But some are coming to the defense of the man who appeared to be throwing many of the punches in the video.
All right, what do we think he did? If people are coming to his defense, what could possibly the other dude done? Disrespected his wife? His husband? What?
His son telling the popular Instagram page Me in Hawaii that there was a confrontation between his parents and an alleged drunk passenger who refused requests to stop bothering his mom. H&N is working to find the passenger who was involved.
And I understand
Just had alcohol.
if he was defending his wife. That's a human quality. But, we got to be adults.
Aviation expert Peter Foreman says regardless of the situation, there is no tolerance for violence in the air.
It's just too dangerous a place to have punches being thrown.
Right, because you never know. The door might fall off. You might fall out. First you have to trust the aircraft. Then you have to realize that, if the aircraft is going to fall apart, if you're punching somebody, they could end up falling out the door, and then it's all fun and games until somebody falls out of the airplane. Oy.
And keep in mind that there's a lot of money involved in turning an airplane around. There's tens of thousands of dollars worth of fuel. Plus, the airplane falls behind schedule. It's going to take maybe a day for that airplane to get back on schedule again. There's a lot of disruptions to a lot of travelers, misconnections and things. So it's a big deal.
Big deal.
Meantime, the FAA says it is aware of the incident and is looking into whether passengers involved will face fines or other enforcement actions.
Wow. $37,000 these people could be stuck with. And you know what? Just don't be a dick on an airplane. How about that? How about the golden rule? How about we just treat each other the way we'd like to be treated? And maybe, just maybe, things would get back to, what am I saying? They're never going to get back to completely normal. Speaking of airplanes, there is yet another airplane story. If you are about to eat dinner, you may not want to listen to this one. If you're not eating dinner, you may want to listen to this one because you probably will want to avoid Delta. Because apparently on a Delta flight, maggots began to fall on passengers from the overhead compartment. Hopefully they weren't eating. It was recently the Delta flight forced to turn around an hour after takeoff when maggots fell from the overhead compartment onto passengers sitting in the cheap seats. Well, they're not going to fall on the ones up in first class. What do you think they are? Hang on a second. Maybe I can, maybe we get a little info off of this. Right there. There. Wait a minute. Hold on. Are they fighting? Are they fighting over the maggots? The flight was traveling from Amsterdam to Detroit. Well, there's an origin and a destination you don't hear very often. The flight yesterday, was transporting travelers from Amsterdam to Detroit, Michigan. Like Amsterdam, right? Is there an Amsterdam, Michigan? I'm not aware of it. When a passenger suitcase, oh, Lordy. Oh, this is not good. All right, more of the fight, and I'll tell you where the maggots came from. Oh, and this isn't even the same flight. This is actually another woman. This is a related story about another woman who's punching a flight attendant. Man, can we not all just get along? Rodney King? God rest his soul. So there was a passenger suitcase in the overhead storage. It had rotting fish in it. Ooh. And it opened up, resulting in the maggots falling onto the passengers and the plane turning around. I wonder if they handed out any vouchers or if they just went, you know what, tough. That's not our fault. Because, it is 2024 after all. After the plane landed, all passengers were instructed to deboard. Isn't it disembark? deboard the aircraft, and the suitcase containing the fish was placed in a bag to be destroyed. The plane itself was also deeply cleaned. Nobody smelled it? And no, this is not the same as the captain who had the nasty smell on his plane. That was a EasyJet. This is Delta. I mean, is it worse to bring spicy, let's say Indian food covered in curry onto a plane and eat it in front of people, or is it worse to put fish in your suitcase and let it rot above everyone's head? I'm not sure which one I would rather have. In an interview with the Daily Mail, a person named Kelsey, not that one, revealed that Delta staff had identified the owner of the rotting suitcase and detained them on the plane after the rest of the travelers left the aircraft. As compensation, travelers were given 8,000 air miles, hotel room compensation, and a $30 meal ticket if they were delayed overnight. They weren't delayed overnight. Tough bandini, I guess. Wow. That's no bueno. All right, we talked about love, the science of love. And, well, once you hear this, we did this a little bit on the program this morning, but this is from a different source. And it's kind of wild what love, after all, it is Valentine's Day. Hold on a second. That's something completely different. Where's that one coming from? So many buttons to push, so little time. Where the hell is that one? That was weird. All right. I think we're lucky. Are we lucky? Are we feeling lucky?
I love you. You're the coolest. Animations can have feelings, right? Totally understandable. But what about humans? How does that all work? With Valentine's Day quickly approaching, we might as well learn a little bit about the science of love. Let's do this. Let's start off at a chemical level. Scientists believe that there are three main neurotransmitters involved with attraction: dopamine, adrenaline, and serotonin. Dopamine makes you feel good, and it has the same effect on the brain as doing cocaine. Wow. Couples often show high signs of dopamine levels, resulting in higher energy, suppressed hunger, higher ability to focus, and less need for sleep. I guess that would explain why I'm hungry all the time. Somebody please date me. Anyway, onto adrenaline. When you first start to fall in love with a person, your stress response is activated, increasing the level of adrenaline and cortisol in your blood. This explains why you might have sweaty palms and a racing heart when you see your new lover. Next up, serotonin. Serotonin levels have actually been shown to drop in people who are in love. This drop in levels can compare to the level of serotonin that a person with obsessive compulsive disorder might have. This would explain any anxiousness or nervousness. All of this chemical talk has got me interested in a little something called pheromones. Pheromones are chemicals that humans and animals produce that can affect the behavior of other surrounding humans or animals. They're excreted through the skin and can be found in things like sweat and tears.
Wait, did this suck the romance out of all of it? I mean, when you break down exactly what's happening when you're in love, does that make the fun part of it go away? Or does it make it even more intense? You decide. I don't know.
Pheromone attraction can actually help one find their best genetically compatible mate. In one study, women were asked to rate the smell of shirts worn by different men. In most cases, the women rated the shirts highest who were worn by men whose DNA was different from their own. Speaking of attraction, how does it all work? Well, all of your senses play a big part in being attracted to someone. We all know that pheromones can attract you to another person, which uses our sense of smell. Our sense of sight is also a big one. See that cutie over there with the hella good hair and the clear skin? Our instinct is to be visually attracted to that person who shows characteristics of being fit for reproduction, or in some cases, just the first part of it. Our ears also contribute to this attraction party. Hearing a person's voice along with the way they speak in some cases higher or lower levels of attraction. While sense of touch can be a very important part of anyone's relationship, it
You think?
really can make or break the beginning stages. Many people become uninterested in a person after a bad first kiss, but are they making a bigger deal out of it than necessary? Well, not always. Getting this close to a person, your sense of smell, taste, touch are all working together, and when your brain reacts positively to a first kiss, your body is flooded with norepinephrine. Your body goes into fight or flight mode, your heart beats faster, and the norepinephrine creates a sort of tunnel vision to help you focus on the cutie in front of you. Or run away. This chemical can warp your sense of time and also improve your memory, somebody give me a smooch. I have time to kill. Have you ever been in love? And I don't really know how to ask you this, but will you be my Valentine? I got you.
Wow. All right, so the first kiss thing and all that, I can see where that that gets you kind of going. But what happens?
Flowers. Leave your answer in the comment section.
Hush. But what if everything's great? You like the way they look, you like the way they talk, you like the way you feel when you're with them. You go to kiss them, horrible kiss and/or bad breath. Huh? I mean, that can ruin the whole damn thing right there. It's the drug thing. The wildest part of that, to me anyway, is the coke. You get all of the same feelings as you would if you were doing cocaine. Isn't that bizarre? The biological necessity, love is. This according to Stephanie Cacioppo, who is a PhD and the author of Wired for Love, a neuroscientist's journey through romance, loss, and the essence of human connection. And from a neuroscientific viewpoint, we can really say that love blossoms in the brain. 2 decades of research shown that when it comes to early stage intense romantic love, the kind that we often think of when we talk about being love struck, you can't think of anybody else but them. I remember being in high school. One of us had to have our license because we drove up to Thousand Island Lakes, which is in the Sierra Nevadas, and we all went camping. There were 4 or 5 of us. And I was in love. I remember I had a picture of her in, I know I didn't have it on my cell phone. Go figure. But it was a little, one of those tiny little things you get out of the, the photo booth. And I remember sitting there, and at that time, again, no technology, so all you can do is think about the other person. And looking back on it, what the? But it's weird. It can really mess with your mind because that's exactly where it's all happening. This team that was researching love used an MRI machine to study 10 women and 7 men who were intensely in love based on their scores on the Passionate Love Scale, a 14-item questionnaire designed to assess the cognitive, emotional, behavioral aspects of passionate love that relationship researchers have used for decades. People who score in the highest range of the assessment are deemed as being wildly, even recklessly in love. Those who score in the lowest range lost the thrill for their partner. They viewed a photograph of their beloved and a photograph of a familiar person. When viewing the photo of their romantic partner, participants experience brain activation in the ventral tegmental area. I don't have to explain that to you. It's the VTA. That's the part of the brain connected to meeting basic needs like drinking when we're thirsty and eating when we're hungry. So it really is truly a base need. You need to breathe, you need to eat, you need to drink, and apparently you need to love. It's the area of the brain that controls things like swallowing and other basic reflexes. Insert your joke here. While we often think about romantic love as this euphoric, amorphous thing and as a complex emotion, the activation we see in this very basic part of the brain is telling us that romantic love is actually a drive to fulfill a basic need. Right? So when you say, love, who needs it? Everyone, apparently. Love also makes you dumber. Studies have shown that people who are passionately in love are less able to focus and perform tasks that require attention. I want to say maybe you can get a job at the FAA, but that's not politics, is it? When you've just become involved with in a romantic relationship, you probably find it harder to focus on other things because you spend a huge part of your cognitive resources on thinking of your beloved. An assistant professor at Leiden University in the Netherlands said, love will also make you high. I think we all know from the documentary Tune, love is like oxygen. Love can also make you less vulnerable to pain. And it probably is not going to make things rot off of, well, see, then that's where there is something to be said. I mean, if you love the wrong person, you could have things rot off of you and fall off. In some instances, they found that just holding hands with the person that you love may alleviate pain. Love makes you walk slower. For guys, anyway. Researchers have shown that men adjust their walking speed to match their romantic partner's pace. It's an odd phenomenon not seen when guys walk with somebody they just consider a friend. It also changes your heartbeat to match the person that you are in love with. Your heart beats as fast as your partner's, so that they're the same rate. Aw, isn't that sweet? It also makes you go up an octave, for women anyway. Women tend to speak in a higher pitched voice to men that they find attractive. Men notice that because eventually, all you're hearing when they talk is welfare. That wasn't right. I apologize. Researchers also suggest that people in love may sometimes try to mimic or match the pitch of their romantic partner's voice as a way to communicate affection and a sense of being on the same page. Aww. Love also makes you blind. Some studies have showed that people in a committed relationship who have been actively thinking about their partner actually avert their eyes from attractive members of the opposite sex unknowingly. It's called an act of unconscious attentional bias. I got yelled at by one of the exes. We were at a pizza place. And it had just been, I don't know, married. Were we married at that point? Yeah. There were a lot of red flags, but I did it anyway. But we were at a pizza place. I don't know. Somebody came in, and they were probably hot. And I looked, and she screamed at me. See, those, Brad, are what we call warning signs, red flags. You should follow those. But I was stupid. I was dumb. I was blind. It also turns you into a daredevil. It's the whole knight in shining armor thing. Studies of risk-taking behavior in men and women show that men are more willing to take unnecessary risks for a romantic partner. Right? Because women love the bad boys. It also makes your pupils grow. The ones in your eyes. Studies suggest that pupil dilation correlates with intense emotional states. So being in love is a wonderful thing. Until it's not. Until it's a bad thing. Until, well, you know, like Phil Collins and his ex-wife. Or maybe Meghan and Harry. You know, Jeffy thinks, if you're not familiar with Jeff Fisher over on the Chewing the Fat podcast, and after all, who isn't? I like to call him fabulous show prep source. But Meghan and Harry, if you listen to Chewing the Fat, are on their last leg. It might be true, might not be true. What is true is apparently they are really tired of having to work for a living. They've rebranded their whole Archwell Productions website. Now they are back to Sussex.com. And Meghan, she says that she just gave a statement, spoken out for the first time. By the way, the new website looks like that. The office of Prince Harry and Meghan. She explained why she and the Duke went with a design by Article, a digital agency based in Canada. The reason I worked with Ryan and the talented team at Article for a decade, their attention to detail, their creativity, their care, and the thoughtful approach to design the website as to the user experience. They're not just designers, they're collaborators who elevate your ideas into visual identities. They're a very special company. Plus, they're Canadian, so I'm a fan. All right. It was Meghan's nod to Canada where she filmed Suits and is visiting for the Invictus Games launch. Wait, isn't it? No, I'm thinking of Festivus. Speaking of Suits, though, it's coming. Well, it's not really coming back. They're going to launch a, what do you call it? It's not really a, it's not a sequel. It's not really a spinoff. I guess it could be considered something of a spinoff. It's not going to have the same characters in it, and it's based in L.A. And Stephen Amell is going to lead. It's going to be on NBC. It's an extension, that's what they're calling it, of the Suits universe. The Suits L.A. is going to center on Ted Black, a former federal prosecutor from New York who has reinvented himself representing the most powerful clients in Los Angeles. His firm is at a crisis point, and in order to survive, he must embrace a role he held in contempt his entire career. Ted is surrounded by a group of characters who test their loyalties to both Ted and each other while they can't help but mix their personal and professional lives. Right? All this is going on while events from years ago slowly unravel that lead Ted to leave behind everything and everyone he loved. Can it be? I mean, Suits was good. Are they going to screw it up? I guess we'll find out. And finally, speaking of bad love, this is on Quora. And some of the answers to these, the question that was posed on Quora, if your boss has an affair with your wife, would that be grounds for suing the company? And if so, what are the grounds for the lawsuit? One of the responses to it on Quora was said, I don't see how you could sue the company unless you somehow proved your boss was having an affair and it was a company-wide decision. Very unlikely. You could sue your boss for alienation of affection, but that would be a lawsuit from one person against another. I'm assuming you likely want to sue the company because you're expecting a higher settlement or a higher likelihood of receiving money from a corporation. Well, yeah. As opposed to an individual. It would be very difficult, if impossible, to sue a company because one of their employees had an affair. And I thought this was this next... you got to give them, well, first of all, points for creative thinking. But this other response, my boss employs me, I work for him and get paid a good salary for being professional and raising the company's profitability. My wife works for another completely separate company that has no connection with my company. My boss is screwing my wife. If I want to sue my boss, I would have to get screwed by lawyers, likely lose my job, be out of work. My wife is getting screwed. My boss is screwing my wife. Why the hell do I want to get screwed by lawyers? Moral of the story, work hard, invest your money, let other people screw each other. Right? And is it acceptable to fire an employee if he cheated on his wife? What do you think? Someone who will cheat on his wife has absolutely no morals of any kind. How could I ever trust that they won't steal or damage my business? The only thing they care about is themselves, and they will stab in the back anyone who gets in their way. I would not say why I'm firing them, but I would get rid of them ASAP. All the things that love can really mess it up. I said, finally, I'll leave you here with this, the story from NPR. It's been a few years ago, but apparently it still stands because there are, well, it started in California, go figure, a Supreme Court ruling there made it easier to sue if you can prove your boss had an affair with a fellow employee who was then promoted. So, sleeping their way to the top. And that's still the case, apparently, because a recent ruling, that was a ruling from the California Supreme Court back in 2005, and they just, again, reaffirmed that very same thing. I mean, is that sexual harassment? I mean, listen, overhearing a blue or off-color joke, that's not sexual harassment. But if you're harassed and you say no, and then you don't end up getting the promotion, that's sexual harassment, right? Especially if that person is above you. Now, I don't mean like above you. I think you understand what I'm saying. All right. Interesting first outing, I would say, for Midweek Malarkey. This is really more so I could figure out which buttons to push. But hopefully you had a little chuckle out of something in there. And if you didn't, it was free. So you got what you paid for. Love. Am I right? Happy Valentine's Day.
It's Hump Day, a very good day for some midweek malarkey.
Yeah, I know. It's what I played at the beginning, but that's all I got. Go out there and get you some.